Finding God. An article by Charles Fillmore. No man knows the beginning of the query, who, what, and where is God? It is dropped from the lips of the little child when it first begins to lisp the names of father and mother, and it is continued throughout the years. Who made you? Who made me? Who made the earth, the moon, and the sun? God. Then, who made God? Thus back to the cause beyond the cause ever runs the questioning mind of man. Does an answer ever come to these questionings? Does man ever receive a satisfactory response to this mental delving after the unfathomable? Each man and each woman must individually answer, for only the mind of God can know God. If you have found God in your own soul, you have found that which to you answers these questions. Language is the limitation of the mind. Therefore expect not the unlimited to leap forth into full expression through the limited. Words never express that which God is. To the mind awakened to its inner springs, words may carry to the inner ear the vibrations of divine energy that awakens to consciousness that which God is, but they never in their formulations bind the unbindable. So let us remember that in our human way, describing God by word of mouth, we are but stating in the lisping syllables of the child that which in its maturity the mind still faintly grasps. Yet man may know God and become the recipient and expression of that unlimited fount of life, light, and love. Man is the recipient of and expresses God. But there is a mighty difference between the inanimate marble chiseled by the sculptor into a prancing steed guided by a master's rein, and the living, breathing horse consciously willing to follow the guiding hand. So there is a wide step dividing that sphere of intelligence which moves to an appointed end under the impulse of divine energy, and that which knows the thoughts and desires of divine mind, and cooperates with it in bringing about the ends of creation. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth, but I call you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you. John 15 verse 15. It must be true that there is in man a capacity to consciously know God and commune with him. It is unthinkable that a creator could cause to be that which is so inferior to itself as to remove it beyond the pale of fellowship. It is our exalted ideas of God and our little ideas of ourselves that have built the mental wall which separates us. We have been taught that God is a mighty monarch with certain domineering characteristics, or that he is of such majesty that man cannot conceive of him. Even in metaphysical concepts of God, the impression left is of a creator great in power, wisdom, and love. In one sense this is true, but the standard of comparison of these qualities in man's mind determines his concept of God. If I say that God is the almighty power of the universe, and have in mind power as we see it expressed as energy and force, I have not set up the right standard of comparison. It is true, all power comes forth from God, but it does not follow that the character of that quality we term power is the same in the unexpressed as in the expressed. God is power. Man is powerful. God is that indescribable stored-up energy that manifests no potency whatever until set in motion through the consciousness of man, yet with a capacity inexhaustible beyond words to express. When that power is manifested by man, it becomes conditioned. It is described as powerful, more powerful, most powerful, and it has its various degrees of expansion, pressure, velocity, force, etc. This power is used by men to oppress each other, and there has come to be an idea that God is power in the sense that he has great oppressing capacity. Also that he can and does exercise his power in punishing his creations and calling down upon them his vengeance. But this is not the character of divine power. If by power we mean force, energy, action, oppression, then we should say that God has no power. That God is powerless because his power is not like these human activities which we call power. God is wisdom, intelligence, but if we mean by this that God is intelligent, that his knowledge consists of the comparisons that come about in a universe of things, then we should say that God is non-intelligent. God is substance, but if we mean by this that God is matter, a thing of time, space, condition, we should say that God is substanceless. God is love, but if we mean by this that God is that which loves a particular child better than all children, or that loves some particular father or mother better than all fathers and mothers, or that loves one person better than some other person, or that has a chosen people whom he loves better than some other people who are not chosen, then we should say that God is unloving. God does not exercise power. God is that all-present and all-quiet powerlessness from which man generates that comparable force which he calls power. God does not manifest intelligence. God is that unobtrusive knowing in everyone which, when acknowledged, flashes forth into intelligence. God is not matter nor confined in any way to that idea of substance termed matter. God is that intangible essence which man has formed and called matter. Thus matter is a limitation of that divine substance whose vital and inherent character is above all else limitlessness. God is not loving. God is love, the great heart of the universe and man, from which is drawn forth all feeling, sympathy, emotion, and all that goes to make up the joys of existence. Yet God does not love anybody or anything. God is the love in everybody and everything. God is love. Man becomes loving by letting forth that which he is, in word and act. The point to be clearly established is that God exercises none of his attributes except through the inner consciousness of the universe and man. God is the still, small voice in every soul, and it is only through the soul that he is made manifest. Drop out of your mind the idea that God is a being of majesty and power, as you now interpret majesty and power. Drop out of your mind the idea that God is in any way separated from you, that he occupies form or space outside of you, or that he can be manifested to your consciousness in any way except through your own soul. We look at the universe with its myriad forms and stupendous evidences of wisdom and power, and we say, all this must be the work of one mighty in strength and understanding. I should stand in awe of such a one and realize mine own insignificance in his presence. Yet when we behold the towering oak with its wide-spreading branches, we say this grew from a tiny acorn. A little stream of life and intelligence flowed into that small seed and gradually formed that giant tree. It was not created in the sense that things are made full-orbed at a single fiat of the will, but it grew from the tiny slip into the towering tree through the inherent potentialities of that little seed. So God is in us the little seed through which is brought forth the Christ-man. That still, small voice at the center of our being does not command what we shall be, nor what we shall do or not do. It is so gentle and still in its work that in the hurly-burly of life we overlook it entirely. We look out, and beholding the largeness of the world of things, begin to cast about for a God corresponding in character with this externality. But we do not find such a creator on the outside. We must drop the complex and find the simplicity of the most simple one before we can know God. Ye must become as a little child. Jesus said, God is spirit. Not a spirit, as in the King James Version. The definition of spirit according to Webster is life or living substance, considered independently of corporeal existence. An intelligence conceived of apart from any physical organization or embodiment. Vital essence, force, or energy as distinct from matter. The intelligent, immaterial, and immortal part of man. The spirit, in distinction from the body in which it resides. Paul says, in him we live, move, and have our being. If scripture writers be our authority there, are none higher than Jesus and Paul. They say that God is spirit. Spirit is not matter. Spirit is not a person, and in order to perceive the essence of being, we must let drop out of our minds the idea that God is circumscribed in any way, or has any of the limitations usually ascribed to persons, things, or anything having form or shape. Thou shalt not make unto thee a graven image, nor the likeness of any form that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath. God is life. Life is a principle that is made manifest in the living. Life cannot be analyzed by the senses. It is beyond their grasp, hence it must be cognized by the Spirit. God is substance, but this does not mean matter because matter is formed, while God is the formless. This substance which God is lies back of all matter and forms. It is that which is the basis of all form, yet enters not into any form as finality. It cannot be seen, tasted, nor touched. Yet it is the only substantial substance of the universe. God is love, that from which all loving springs. God is truth, the eternal verity of the universe and man. God is mind. Here we touch the connecting link between God and man. The essential being of God, the principle, cannot be comprehended by any of the senses or formed faculties. But the mind of man is formless and limitless, and through it he may come into that knowing which in the silent ages God has stored up for him. Man knows God when he knows himself. The secret of existence is locked up in that statement. Why it is that man has made such slow progress in solving the mystery of being is that he has not grasped the nature of God, nor his own nature, nor that relation between the two that makes them one. This is life eternal, to know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ whom thou hast sent. Many men have achieved eternal life right here in the body. They did it by coming into the consciousness of their own spiritual identity. When man realizes that he is spirit, he knows that he cannot die. Jesus accomplished this by disappearing from their sight while they beheld him. It was a mystery then, but today it is quite understood by many that the death of the body does not necessarily follow when one ceases to be seen by the sense man. The true body is not visible to the sense man. When man is awakened to his real self, he discovers that he has another body which is the real one, and he uses this to the exclusion of the former one which we call the material. Hence it is said that he discards the flesh body and appears in his spiritual body. God is. Man exists in God-mind and is coexistent with God. The only separation between God and man is in man's mind. The mind of man cannot separate itself from God-mind, because the source of existence cannot be separated from its manifestation. God is mind. Man is the thinking faculty of that mind. As Jesus said, I and the Father are one. This is also true of every man, but every man has not come into the consciousness of this unity as did Jesus. When this unity is fully realized, man has fulfilled the law of his being, and he ceases to be reincarnated in the physical sense, because he has attained his goal. He then becomes a son of God, or a Christ one, and is a power in and of the higher states of consciousness in bringing to the lower planes of thought that equilibrium so necessary to the final rounding up of the whole race. There is but one mind, one spirit, and one God, and that mind and spirit are ever seeking to bring about the reconciliation and unity of the race. The only separation between God and man is in man's thought. When man drops that thought, he enters into a realization of his union with the Father. He becomes the prodigal son, returning to his father's house. Here he finds the fatted calf of abundance and the robe of righteousness awaiting him, and the boundless riches of the universe open to him. He finds no more barriers in his way, because they have all been removed by that state of thought which he dropped when he entered into the consciousness of the Father's house. God is, and he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. To seek God diligently is to earnestly desire the realization of the unity between the mind of man and the mind of God. When this unity is realized, man begins to know God. God is revealed to him through his own soul. He sees God, not as a person, but as a loving, all-knowing mind. God becomes a living reality within him, and he hears this still, small voice at all times. He has entered into the kingdom of heaven and become one with the supreme mind of the universe. He has found God, and in finding God he has found his own real self. God is. God is here. God is now. These are the fundamental statements of the divine presence, the recognition of which will solve all the mysteries of life and being. When we enter into the understanding of this presence and realize it in our own consciousness, we will be at rest and peace. The universe will become a friendly place, and we will enter into that harmony which is the true nature of existence. This is the goal toward which all creation is moving, and when we understand it and cooperate with it, we shall become masters of destiny and know the secret of life. End of article.